Hello again. A little over 80 years ago, there was a country run without even the semblance of democracy. There were concentration camps for political prisoners and ethnic minorities, and the regime seemed very keen on grabbing territory from neighbouring countries and threatening war if people didn't agree to whatever demands they felt like making. The reaction of other countries which did not actually border this dreadful nation was that the best thing to do was to let the bully have his way. Surely he would then stop making demands once he was given just a little bit more. This is a very bad policy, of course. Giving in to a blackmailer or someone who's running a protection racket guarantees that they will be making further demands in the future, and it's just the same with rogue countries too. Sooner or later you'll have to stand up to them, no matter how many smaller countries you have let them overrun. Appeasement always reminds me of Kipling's poem, Paying the Danegeld, which was of course written about this particular way of conducting international affairs. The Danes used to rampage around and demand that other countries paid them money to be left alone. Don't worry, I'm not going to read out the whole thing, just a couple of verses. It is always a temptation to an armed and agile nation to call upon a neighbour and to say, "We invaded you last night, we are quite prepared to fight, unless you pay us cash to go away." And that is called asking for Danegeld, and the people who ask it explain that you've only to pay them the Danegeld, and then you'll get rid of the Dane. That is called paying the Danegeld, but we proved it again and again, that if once you have paid him the Danegeld, you will never get rid of the Dane. This is exactly what is happening right now with China. They behave in the most outrageous fashion, seizing any territory they feel like, and generally doing just as they please. Think for a moment about the question of their territory. How far do you think the Chinese say their territorial waters extend? Usually a nation's territorial waters stretch for 3 miles from their coast, although sometimes the area which can be exploited by the nation economically extends further than this, although they don't make the claim that they own the waters, even when they're drilling for oil and so on. The Chinese claim that their own territorial waters cover the whole of the South China Sea, as far as the Philippines. They've built artificial islands over 1,300 miles from their coast and are turning these into military bases so that they can rule as far as they wish from their own country. In other words, the Chinese now claim that their territory extends over 1,300 miles from their shores. It would be as though Britain suddenly did the same thing and then announced that Iceland lay within British territorial waters. Taiwan, an old ally of the United States, is being menaced now, but since nobody wishes to cross swords with China, they'll probably be able to have Taiwan if they really want it. I can't see anyone going to war to defend Taiwan. Most relevant to the situation today is of course the fact that COVID-19 originated in China, and that country shows little willingness to cooperate with the international community in establishing just what led to those millions of deaths. Was the virus an artificially modified product? Did it escape from a laboratory? Nobody has the least idea, and that suits the Chinese very well. Chinese are now sending spaceships to Mars and the Moon, and if we're not careful, they will become a world power and overtake America in that role. I, for one, view such a prospect with horror. Sooner or later, we in the West will have to stop appeasing China and lay down strict limits beyond which they must not go. Personally, I think the sooner this is done, the better. We would have been much better advised nipping Nazi Germany in the bud early on, rather than waiting until it took a world war to curb the country's ambitions.